Hi everyone, so this is going to be the starting of a new vlog. I decided to start on the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs. So the first one's called Moon Called, and I actually finished this one yesterday. So this one's pretty interesting. So it's, some people were saying like it's a paranormal romance, and I'm like, maybe in time it turns into a paranormal romance, but I would say this is definitely more of a urban fantasy series, paranormal, that type of thing. I like how it's got like right here where it's glossy for her, but on the back it's like matte. I think that's kind of cool. I like the design of these books. I think the covers are pretty cool looking. So this whole world is basically, the main protagonist is Mercy Thompson. Now her name's Mercedes, but she goes by Mercy. And she runs this mechanic shop that's owned by a vampire. And the vampire seems like pretty chill. And he lets her kind of like do, you know, whatever she wants. She restores a lot of like VW bugs and things like that, you know. Does a lot of restoration. That's like one of the things that she likes to do, is restoring like old vehicles and stuff like that, because then she could sell them for more than what, you know, she put into it and all this other stuff, all the labor and everything like that. She can get like a lot of money for them. So she's working at the mechanic shop one day when this young guy that she can kind of like pick up the scent of, you end up finding out that Mercy is actually a coyote shifter. And so she can shift really easy into a coyote, and she could shift at any time. You know, like when you compare it to like the werewolves that she knows, werewolf packs, they can't shift willy-nilly, you know, like it's harder for them to shift whenever they want. Something kind of has to set them off, or the moon has to hit in order for them to shift easier. But it's not an easy experience for them. They go through pain, where for her, she doesn't deal with pain. She shifts, you know, into a coyote and then shifts back, you know, no problem. Kind of reminds me of this series here. Definitely reminds me a lot of the Sookie Stackhouse series by Charlaine Harris. Those ones had the same thing, where it has a main protagonist that's a female. You're dealing with a lot of the paranormal world. So you're dealing with werewolves, you're dealing with vampires, you're dealing with fae, you're dealing with witches, but that hasn't come up yet. There was a witch in here, but I don't think you'll probably deal with more stuff like as the series progresses. But this one here, she's working when this young guy shows up, and she automatically could tell like he's like a new werewolf. And so he, through working with her for like a couple days, he ends up confessing to her that he actually, because I guess there's some people who are born werewolves, and then there's other ones that if they get bit and they become a werewolf. So he had gotten bit and became a werewolf, and you end up finding out more things about the reason of how he became bit throughout the whole book. I don't want to delve too deeply into it, because then I'm going to say like a bunch of spoilers. And I'm trying to be better than that, because I'm sure some people probably didn't like my vlogs of the Sookie Stackhouse series, because I probably delved too much into it. So she decides to help him, you know, this young guy, because she's like, okay, he got turned, you know, like he deliberately got turned into a werewolf. So she decides that she's going to go and contact her neighbor, who is the alpha of the werewolves in the, you know, basically in the town. And so she goes and she gets a hold of Adam, and Adam is, you know, her next door neighbor. And he goes and is like, okay, you know, drop him here. We'll go and, you know, see what's going on. And then the next day or the next morning or whatever it was, Mac gets killed. You know, that's what he called himself, Mac. Mac gets killed. Now they all have to basically get together and find out who killed Mac and what the heck is going on. You know, what's going on here? Why was he turned into a werewolf? What's the deal? So now they have to basically get people together that, you know, that they could trust, you know, because I'm like, now they're like, there's other stuff going on in the background that you really don't know what's going on. So as you're reading it, more discoveries come in and you're like, oh, this now happened, now this is happening. So it's very much a fantasy, paranormal. There is some investigation stuff in here, but it also is like action packed. There's a lot of fighting in here. There's guns in here. She's pretty strong. I'd say she's pretty strong and pretty fearless. I mean, obviously there's things that she is scared of, but I'd say she's definitely a strong female heroine compared to, like, there are some series that kind of come out where sometimes they go and they do a strong female heroine and it's like she's a dude. Where here it's like she's still feminine, you know, like she's still feminine. She still has feminine traits, and, you know, she has more of like the narrator had more of like a husky tone to her, you know, for her voice. And I'm like, I liked her voice. I like the narrator's voice for this character. But yeah, I like her. She's, you know, obviously a grease monkey. She likes to go and put things together. And I liked the first book. You know, when I read this one or listened to this, you know, it was a graphic audio. So you had multiple narrators talking for the characters in here. And I think it's interesting because they kind of have a little bit of, it's almost what I would consider a love triangle in a way, because she talks about how the other town that she was raised in, because she was basically a foster kid, and she was raised with the werewolf pack. So that's why she knows like a lot of, you know, packs and pack leaders and who's in the line of like of these alpha packs. And so she knows all this different stuff. And so so yeah, she was raised as like a foster kid in, you know, with her like parents and stuff like that, you know, step parents and everything. And let me see, what else can I give information on that I don't feel like it's a spoiler? Oh, Adam, he's alpha. His daughter is human, because it's pretty much how it is with, like, when you have like two werewolves that get together, a lot of times either the mother dies during like childbirth, or they have trouble like conceiving or the child being born alive. You know, you could have a lot of miscarriages and stuff like that. And I guess Adam's like former mate, former woman that he had his daughter with, I guess she had like 4 miscarriages before that. And so his daughter Jessie is human. She doesn't have any werewolf traits or anything like that. So he has to, like, you know, be very protective of her, and, you know, obviously, you know, dangers and everything like that when it comes to like them, you know, as a wolf, you know, wolf pack and all that stuff. So Mercy has a relationship with Jessie. She really likes Jessie. Jessie will come around and, you know, will want to hang out with Mercy and stuff like that. So what happens is Adam, there's somebody in his pack that is not trustworthy. And so what ends up happening is after Mac's death, they left his body at the door of Mercy. And so she went into Adam's house and basically helped him out because he was being like targeted too. And poor Jessie ends up getting kidnapped. And so now they have to go, and besides finding out the murder of who killed Mac, but also they have to find Jessie. And so Mercy's like very protective of that girl, you know, like she obviously really likes her and stuff. And so I like the fact that she almost kind of like had almost like I'd say kind of like a mom role, even though she obviously didn't think of Jessie as like a daughter. But still, it's like you know, when you're around somebody and, you know, they're like young and impressionable, you want to be a good, you know, role model for them, you know? So I think that's what it was with Mercy. Like she, you know, wanted to be like obviously a good role model for her because she's young and she's like her neighbor and stuff like that. So, you know, she would do stuff. I think she was baking cookies. Like there was a scene in here where she was baking cookies, Mercy was, and Jessie had showed up. And so they were talking, and so she went and gave like Jessie like how many cookies, you know, like to go back home and stuff. And so she also wanted to make sure that she got home safe, you know, because she knew like there were areas that were not safe for her, you know, to walk by herself. So she wanted to make sure she got back safe. And so I like that she has a very protective personality, wants to protect, obviously, who she thinks are probably the most vulnerable, you know? So I think she's a very strong female character where they don't turn her into like a dude, you know? And they don't make her like, oh, well, she's just as strong as like the males and stuff. No, she obviously has some weaknesses in here, you know? And it shows like she's still a female, you know? But I really liked this one here. It was pretty good. I did give it 5 stars. I thought it was really well done. And I definitely, you know, like I was engaged with the audiobook. Sometimes you can listen to an audiobook and you're like, this part's boring. But no, everything was like pretty much like fast paced, action packed, you know, fighting and different things like that, people changing. And like I said, when I say a love triangle, to go back to that point where I was saying before, when I was saying about a love triangle, there was another character in here. His name's Samuel. Well, she knew Samuel when she was younger. Like at 16, she had kind of like fallen in love with this older guy who was a, you know, werewolf. And you come to find out he's like older than what he would, you know, look like if he looks like he's in his 20s, he's actually older than that. He's probably like in his 50s or 60s. Yeah, just because of the base of because werewolves obviously age differently than humans. And so for her, she was 16 at the time and he was a lot older. And so he's now a doctor, and so she was working with Samuel as well as Adam. And obviously, because they're both like werewolves and stuff like that, they both kind of like were a little bit kind of growly with each other, because you could tell Adam probably had something for her, but it wasn't like, I wouldn't say it was something that was really strong, you know? So that's why I said I wouldn't call this a romance. You definitely have romantic themes in here, but it doesn't overshadow the fantasy or the paranormal. So I'd say if you're not really a huge fan of romance, you could definitely get into this book and still be entertained, you know? So I thought this was pretty well done. Like I said, I don't want to go into any more, and otherwise I think I'd be spoiling too much of, you know, the first book. So I really liked that first book. So now I'm gotten into the second book here. I'm going to start the audiobook soon for this one here. So this is the second one. We got Bloodbound. So it says that, under the rule of science, there are no witch burnings allowed, no water trials or public lynchings. In return, the average law-abiding solid citizen has little to worry about from the things that go bump in the night. Sometimes I wish I was an average citizen. So the other thing in here is, like I said, it reminded me very much of the Sookie Stackhouse series, because you have political things in here too. When it comes to the Fae had come forward and exposed themselves to the public, the human public. And so they had to deal with all of the different bad things that happened to them because of that, you know, because humans are not going to always accept what isn't them, you know? So there were bad things that were happening to some of the Fae creatures. So now the one guy who's like the main spokesperson, who is Samuel's father, He wants the wolf packs to come forward to the public and expose themselves. And how many of them that don't want that? They don't want to be exposed. They prefer not to know, don't let humans know who they are. There's actually a gay relationship in here that the one character is gay male, and he's dating a human gay male. And so Mercy kind of had to tell the one, the human, that, there are werewolves out there and your boyfriend is a werewolf, He couldn't tell his boyfriend that he was a werewolf and expose himself, because you're supposed to keep it a secrecy, because there's a possibility that he could have gotten killed, and the other werewolf could have gotten killed too. So she had to go and kind of break it to his partner that, your boyfriend is, besides being gay, he's also, he also is a werewolf. So you have to keep it a secrecy within the, everything. So this one here, we have where it says Mechanic Mercy Thompson has friends in low places and in dark ones, and now she owes one of them a favor. Since she can shape-shift at will, she agrees to act as some extra muscle when her vampire friend Stefan goes to deliver a message to another of his kind. But this new vampire is hardly ordinary, and neither is the demon inside of him. Ooh, man. So Stefan is basically, I'm pretty sure it was the guy who owned the mechanic shop, Stefan. There was a couple of vampires in here that she was working with. One had like an accent, and then the other one, I think, was Stefan. I think Stefan had like a regular, like, I think American, maybe an American accent. But he goes and owns the mechanic shop, so she ends up running it. And so Stefan was helping her in the first book when it came to like Adam and all the wolf shifters and everything that had to do with what was going on. And so I'm assuming it's obviously some other vampires that Stefan knows. And there is a different type of way of how you act around wolf shifters compared to how you would act around vampires. So Mercy now has to, like, shift when it comes to different things. Like, you have to act a certain way when it comes to this crowd here. Now she has to go and do this over here. So yeah, obviously he's going to use her coyote shifter, ability to do whatever the heck they need to do. So I'm going to delve into this one here and see how it is, how I like it. Like I said, so far it's pretty interesting. And I do also like the fact that if there is a romance in here, I don't want it to be like the dominating factor of the story. I want it to be more kind of like in the background kind of thing. I'm more focused on the action and what's going on with the world building and the whole like Mercy Thompson world, what's going on here. So it's kind of like, almost like I said, very similar to Sookie Stackhouse, to where the romance that she had was not the main focus. I'm just hoping that in this, it's just one person that's just the main focus, because Sookie was like going around to guy, and I really wasn't a fan of that. So yeah, we'll see. And then this is the third one, Iron Kissed. So like I said, I like all of the covers. All of the covers are interesting. So this one here, so it says Mechanic Mercy Thompson can shift her shape, but not her loyalty. So it says when her former boss and mentor is arrested for murder and left to rot behind bars by his own kind. Oh, okay, that's going to be interesting. It's up to Mercy to clear his name, whether he wants to or not. Mercy's loyalty is under pressure from other directions too. Werewolves are not known for their patience, and if Mercy can't decide between two she cares for, oh, there we go, Sam and Adam, they may make the choice for her. Okay, okay. Yeah, like I said, there was a little bit of a love triangle in here, even though it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't the most highlighted, but you can tell within the story that clearly Samuel, who was, like I said, much older than her, he obviously wanted her for his mate, and also when it comes to, she had talked about the different dynamics when it comes to mating and the different species. Like, obviously, not every birth is going to be a werewolf, that type of thing. I guess, what was it? She had said when it came to like coyotes and werewolves, it was a good kind of like mating breed that you can do, where the more likely chance of those births, going forward, instead of like miscarriages or the babies being born, stillborn or something like that, obviously there'd be more chances of having children, being born. So that's what I'm thinking, is because she's a coyote. Adam, who already, has just one child and she's a human. And then obviously Samuel, I believe Samuel had other children, but I think some of them were not, like, they obviously had miscarriages with some of them too. So I think he had like a couple of other mates throughout the years, but those weren't good matches, obviously, biologically and all that stuff. That's what I'm assuming when it comes to like reproduction and everything, because they obviously want to continue on with their species, but if they can't get any of the children who are born, that and all that stuff, obviously it's going to be harder to reproduce. So that's what I'm assuming, like, because Samuel wanted her as like a wife to him, and then that never happened. And now Adam, who's an alpha, is interested in her. So now she's going to have to obviously choose between Samuel or Adam. Personally, I see more of it when it comes to Adam. Like, obviously I see the attraction still that Mercy still has for Samuel, but I like Adam. I'll just say, like, if I'm rooting for anybody, I'd be rooting for Adam. So I think that's probably what's going to happen in here, is there's going to probably be a little bit more of a love triangle where she's going to have to choose who she would rather be with, and I'm sure she's probably like, she might not want to settle down at that time, So yeah, right now I'd say this is an interesting series, but I'm going to go and continue on with reading book 2 and getting through book 2 and going from there. And like I said, I don't want to give out too much information, so I'd rather just kind of like go based on, after I get done with the book, I'd rather go based on my memory of it and kind of go from there, rather than saying like every little thing that went on with the book. I think I just give out too much information, so I don't want to give out too much. So there was a lot of different stuff that went on in the first book. I think there's going to be a lot of different stuff that's going to go on in the second book, and obviously the rest of the series. It's on book 14 right now. Book 14 right now is currently a hardcover. They don't have a paperback or anything like that, so I need to wait till it comes out on paperback. I actually would prefer if they would do regular paperbacks with these instead of mass markets, because the only downside to mass markets is that after a while, the creases and everything like that, the book gets kind of like worn out very quickly when it comes to mass markets. So it'd be nice if they went and redid these and had the same covers. I would prefer the same covers because these are really pretty. I like these covers. They really attract you to the book. and like I said, cover story is everything. Cover story is everything. You know, when you go and you look at these covers, you know, it gives you, it already gives you like that story already in there. Like, look at, there's bats right there. Obviously, it has to do with like vampires and all that stuff. Marketing for your covers is very important still. Like, you know, when it comes to marketing your books, that's very important. But also a cover story is very important too. And if you have a great cover story, you're going to have a lot more people attracted to these types of covers. And I also like that it's mainly just her that's on it, you know, because like I said, she is the main protagonist. So I think it makes more sense that you would have just her on it, you know? So yeah, I do like that. Also, they did say that her heritage, that she does have like Native American in her. So I think that's interesting too. I always love stories that have more of, that they talk about what they say now, indigenous. I don't know what Native Americans prefer, if they prefer to be called Native Americans or if they prefer to be called indigenous. I don't know. But, you know, I would rather ask them. I don't want to go and have a white person tell me what the proper term is. It's like, no, I'd rather ask them because they're the ones that are those people, you know? It's the same thing with like, I'm going to ask a black person, what do you prefer to be called, you know? And not come up with my own term, you know? So yeah, she does have, I guess, Native American blood in her. So I do like like I said, that with the covers, she doesn't look, I don't want her to look like a white chick, you know? So she did say that she looks more white, but, you know, because of her coloring and everything, but I like the fact that she does have like Native American in her and all that stuff, you know, and then it has to do with her ancestry of why she is a coyote and everything. That's interesting. I found that to be very interesting. So yeah, I definitely like this. And the person who had actually recommended me this series, Nicole, she had recommended me this series, and I'd say it was a good recommendation because, like I said, it reminds me a lot of the Sookie Stackhouse series. They're very similar, and I do like that it did have, like, if I'm going to delve into something that's more paranormal and fantasy, I want the fantasy story or the paranormal story to be very strong in it, not just the romance of it too. I want those other elements to shine as well, you know? I hate delving into a story where, like, say, like, you delve into a basketball story and it's supposed to be, like, you know, a basketball love story, and they barely have any basketball with it, and it's like, what's the point of calling it a basketball romance when it barely has any romance in it when it came to the basketball storyline, you know? So, yeah, I don't like when someone calls it something and it's like it's barely there. So this one here definitely had the world building built into it that made sense, you know? So yeah, very much reminded me of that Sookie Stackhouse. I'm trying to think of like, oh, I'd also say like if you like the Sookie Stackhouse series, you'll like this. But also I think if you liked the Janine Frost Night Hunter series, I think you would like this because it's very similar too. You have a lot, like I said, you have a lot of world building when it comes to it. And then you also have a bit of, you know, there's going to be something going on when it comes to her choosing a partner, a mate, and all that stuff. Yeah. So it's got that too. So I like that aspect to it as well. And I've told somebody else I'm not a huge fantasy reader. Like, you know, like the titles like From Blood and Ash or whatever anything like that, I kind of avoid them because I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't care. You know, I don't care. So if I'm gonna go and read something that has fantasy to it, I'm more into like urban fantasy. That's something I've realized is like I'm definitely more into like urban fantasy than like high fantasy. High fantasy, just I lose interest in it. I don't understand what's going on. I feel dumb reading the books. With urban fantasy, I could still understand it because it's basically taking place in, like, Earth. It's taking place on Earth, and you're still dealing with, like, humans, but you're also dealing with other things that kind of go bump in the night, I like that aspect to it. That's what I think makes the books more interesting to me, is that aspect. Is like they look human, but they're not, Yeah, I prefer those. Anyways, I've talked too much. That's it for this one here. I will update you all later when I finish off this second book. I'll try not to get too much into, talking too much, because I have to get through the other book too. But yeah, I'd say so far, I do like the series, and I definitely want to continue on. I don't know how long I'm going to be engaged in these stories before I start to tune out, because when it comes to series, I don't like to read long series. So if this one remains remains good, and it doesn't start to like peter out, where the Sookie Stackhouse series, I did feel like it could have been cut down to like at least 10 books instead of 13. Yeah. So this one here, we'll see. It's, like I said, it's on the 14th book. We'll see what happens. How many books that she goes before she kind of finishes off the series and then maybe has something else. But I definitely will. I have like a few other books from Patricia Briggs. It's another type of one. I think it's called Alpha and Omega. I have like a few books from that one. So I'll delve into that one too. But yeah, when it comes to series, I don't like long series. I tend to like lose interest in what's going on. But you know what? This would make a really interesting TV show. I will say that if they decided to go and adapt this to TV, this would be an interesting TV show. I would watch it. I would watch it for sure. But yeah, I'll update you all later when I get done with this book. So, okay, update. So, I finally got through this book here. Now, I took like how many days away from it? I was listening to the audiobook, and then I had how many days where I decided not to listen to the audiobook. Also because I was sick too, so it makes it to where I'm like, you don't want to, pay attention to anything. So, went and got through this one here. I'd say I'd give this one about a 4, It still has, like when it comes to these series, obviously you have relationships that are expanded, like obviously from a typical, like a single book, anything that has to do with more of a standalone book, they typically have where maybe like if a couple's going to get together, it's usually within that first book. Here, obviously, because she's a coyote shifter, she has both men kind of like vying for her. Like she still has, in the first book, we're introduced to Samuel, who she had a thing for when she was a teenager, and then she had, walked away from him and went to a different area to live, and he still, has a thing for her because, the wolf in him wants to mate with her so that way he can, have offspring. And so you end up finding out a little bit more in here that he had gotten together with a human woman years ago, and the woman didn't want to, have the child because I guess they were both going through like medical school at the same time. And so because, Samuel's a wolf, he lives much longer. She didn't want to go forward with the pregnancy, so she had a deletus the fetus.
And so it really upset him. And so he, Samuel has this thing in his head where he, of course, still wants to have, children. And Adam, who's her next door neighbor and who is the alpha, he has a thing for her, so she's kind of like, it's definitely the love triangle that's still kind of going on. But like I said, it's more of the background. It's more definitely in the background because the storyline in here had it where most of the storyline was Mercy, because she can shift easily into a coyote. Stefan, who's a vampire, wanted to use her skills to track down something that is killing people. You come to find out it's this person called Littleton, I think it is. Littleton. It's either Littleton or Littlefield. I think it's Littleton. You end up finding out that this individual, this person, sorry, this person used to be a human, but got turned into a vampire. But this person they dabbled in like the arts of like sorcery and things like that. So when the person got changed, they already had like evil intentions. So them changing into a vampire kind of just made them even worse. And so now this thing, has powers to where it can control the wolves and it can control the other vampires. And so now Mercy's like, she's like, what can we do here, to help defeat this, like creature? And it was just, I'd say really gross because it had taken I think it was a maid or something, and really like tortured the maid and like basically like drained her slowly. And even after the poor woman was dead, it kept like feeding on her, and it was like, ugh, just really gross. So throughout this book, she ends up finding out like who turned this, thing, and everything. And there's a whole bunch of like politics in this. Ooh, we're going good. Dang. I keep yawning. I was fine. Now, ever since I started recording, I'm freaking yawning. But, there's a lot of politics involved in this series. Like, when it comes to, like, the world here, there's a lot of different stuff going on with the vampire world, with the wolf world, all the different factions that is with this world and everything, with Mercy basically like the center of it, where she just wants to live her life, normal life, and she's has to deal with all this other stuff. But I like the fact that she's very brave. She is very brave, even though she knows her limitations. So I like that. I like the fact that she is a heroine that knows her limitations, but she also does stuff anyway, knowing that it's a possibility that she could get hurt or possibly dead. Yeah. So I did like this one. I thought it was really interesting. Like I said, I gave it about a 4. I thought it was decent, pretty good. I didn't love it. I'll just say that. I didn't love it, but, I was invested in the story of what was going on. But yeah, now that we have more... sorry, dang. Now that we have more going on with, like, this, like, love triangle where, she has to basically decide which one she wants to, like, obviously choose for a mate. to be with. And I mean, I'll say, like, I like Samuel, but he's much older than her, you know. Also, I just don't think his intentions are 100% like pure, like when it comes to her. I think he's just so desperate to have children that, he'll take her. But I'm like, I don't know if he truly loves Mercy, because, like I said, there is a little bit of a romance in here. I don't know if he truly actually loves Mercy, Where Adam, who's the pack leader, the alpha, you could see, like, he's intrigued with her and he wants to get to know her. And even, like, in this book here where he told her, like, he realizes that she like submits to him, like automatically, like submits to him, and she doesn't like the fact that she submits, that it's like she can't help it. It's like it's in her nature to submit to him. And he realizes this, and he basically tells her, like, I will, you make the first move, you make the move, I'll hold back, so he's kind of giving her the reins of, like, controlling their relationship, whatever it is, whatever type of relationship it is. He's giving her the reins, and I'm like, you know what, respect to him, because he is an alpha, and alphas don't normally follow, they lead. That's the whole point of them being an alpha, is they're the ones that are in charge, so I like that he's giving her that, freedom to, they can explore their relationship, whatever this relationship is, and kind of go from there. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. And like I said, I can't go any farther into it because you're going to delve into a lot of the politics in here. And I already said, like, at the beginning of this, I don't want to delve too much into what this whole thing was. The majority of this story had to do with her trying to find this Littleton, or whatever his name was, I think it was Littleton, creature that was killing people and different things like that. So it's basically, an investigation, finding this person, trying to destroy them, and then also finding out other people who were involved with this creature's creation, who was the person who created this being, and so yeah, it was really interesting. And now I'm going to be delving into the third audiobook. Crap. Oh, man. I'm trying not to do it. I'm trying not to yawn. So now this one here, Iron Kissed. I like the cover of that one. Like she's hanging in the car, fixing it up. I think that's cool. So it says, where her former boss and mentor is arrested for murder and left to rot behind bars by his own kind, so it's the vampires, I assume, it's up to Mercy to clear his name whether he wants her to or not. So Mercy's loyalty is under pressure from other directions too. Werewolves are not known for their patience. And if Mercy can't decide between the two she cares for, Adam may make the choice for her. Okay. So yeah, like I said, the second book, Samuel was getting a little impatient. You could tell, like, he was, like, looking at her like, you got to decide, who you want to be with. Because, Samuel is from her past. Adam is, from her present. And I'm assuming future. Just based on the books, like, I read all the synopsis of all of them. So I'm like, okay, So yeah, this will be interesting. So we'll see from there. And, Jessie, Adam's daughter, was in the second book. She didn't have, like, a really big part, but, she was there. She was there. She's dating this guy named Gabriel, who works for at Mercy's mechanic shop. And, you could see like she's a little protective, and, she's basically telling Gabriel, hey, you know who her father is, you know who her father is. And Gabriel's like, it's okay, I know. So yeah, that was cute. Like you could see like Mercy's got like, kind of like a protective streak for her, like almost kind of like a parent to Jesse, because I think Jesse's mom, she's not really around much. I don't think Jessie and her mother like really have like a great relationship, so it's nice to see Mercy's like has this like protective streak of her. It's really nice. So yeah, I'm gonna delve into this one here, and when I get done, update, and that'll be my last update for this vlog. I want to get this vlog done so that way I can post it. So yeah, I'll update you all later and tell you how I feel about this book. Okay, I finished off this last book. I will say this one here, I really enjoyed the first one, the first book. And I did give that one 5 stars, where the second book I gave it 4. This one here, I was going to give it 5 stars, but toward the end, something shifted and happened. And I was like, this is a 6-star book. This is like 6 stars to me. Oh man, I'm trying to, how do I explain it without giving away a lot of spoilers? But we've got this one here where Mercy gets a call from Z. I think his name is like Zebort, something like that. And he was her like former boss. He's the one that ended up selling the shop to her. And she was making payments for him. And he ends up calling her and telling her that he needs her expertise on the Fae reservation. Because the Faes, when they came out years ago, they had gotten like persecuted against by humans and different things like that. Obviously think of like, years ago of, slaves and different things like that, slavery and KKK and all this, all the bad things, all the bad things that happened in history, So kind of think about that. So they had basically wanted some type of, or I'd say it's how Native Americans were treated years ago by, English, different things like that, British, people coming here and pushing, Native Americans like out of areas and stuff like that. So essentially the Fae have a reservation and they're doing things there. Obviously they didn't want, like humans to know about and all that stuff. I get it. So there ends up being like some murders on the reservation. And so now Mercy is, allowed in, and she ends up smelling the scent of something familiar. And so she goes and tells Z and this other guy, Uncle Mike, of who she suspects of possibly committing these murders. So she goes about, her day and everything like that, and ends up finding out that Z got arrested for murder. The person who murdered these other people, he ended up getting murdered. And so now Z is basically accused of this. And he's willing to basically take the blame because the Fae don't really want humans to interact and deal with all of the different stuff. Because, like I said, the Fae have things that they're doing that they don't want humans to know about, So they will basically let Z get framed for this and go down for it rather than find out the truth, essentially. So she goes into like this investigation to try to find out who was the real culprit that killed this other person. And I'll just say, like, there's a scene toward the end where this person has these magical fae, things, and ends up tricking Mercy, and she's drinking from this like magical goblet, things like that. And the person is basically mentally manipulating her, and she can't fight it because it's these drugs that, it's like this drug, and she keeps like being forced to drink, and she can't stop herself. It's like an impulse. She can't stop herself from drinking this drink. And he ends up, there's a little spoilers right here because I feel like people need to know this going in, that this is what's going to happen. But there's a sexual assault in here. She gets sexually assaulted. And the way it's manipulated in her head, she blames herself. She blames herself because the way that this person used this magic on her, it made her enjoy the sexual assault. So there's a scene in here where this one character who's a werewolf ends up talking to Adam and is telling him, because Adam thinks she's afraid of him. And it's like, that's not it. And so he goes into this whole thing of, what happened with her. That this person used this magical stuff on her, and she's feeling this sense of guilt that she enjoyed it, that she, it's definitely like, it's definitely like, your body, when you can get forced, assaulted, your body can betray you. So it's kind of like similar to that. It's like her body betraying her. So she had this sense of like, once Adam knew the truth, that he would hate her, but it wasn't her fault. It was the magic that was used on her, that she ended up, even though she was kind of held against the magic, she also fought against it too. And that right there, what happened to her and the aftermath of it, and what this one character told Adam, kind of hyped it up for me. And that's why I'm like, this was a 6-star right here. This was like a 6-star right here. That scene tipped it over for me. I'm like, this is a 6-star. Just that whole thing I thought was great. It was a great scene in the book. It was great dialogue of this explanation of her feeling this sense of, she still had this magic like running through her, where this character had basically told her that she will not be loved by anyone but him. That's why I said like emotional manipulation, that he would never love, she would never love anyone but him, and she'll be by herself for the rest of her life. And that essentially she wants to kill herself. She wants to end her life. He was going to convince her to go to this lake used by this power, this magic, and kill herself, end her life. And it was still running through her system, and her fighting against this compulsion to do what this person told her to do, she was fighting against it. And so I was like, oh man, that to me was like really gut-wrenching and emotional. And listening to, like I said, I don't want to give all the character names away and everything like that and what's going on. That's why I'm like, I only could go into so much. But this one character explaining it to Adam and telling him, you know, what she's currently going through. Because himself, you know, this character telling, you know, his story of like as a child and obviously being molested, you know. So I was like, whoa, that was very deep. That was very deep, very emotional listening to this. I was like, oh my God, I was not expecting that to happen to her, you know. I was not expecting that to happen to her. And her garage was wired to where, you know, they had cameras and stuff. Everyone saw it. Everyone saw what happened to her. And Adam was like, he was so fucking mad. Like, he was so fucking mad. He literally ripped this person apart. As soon as he got in the garage, he ripped this person apart, you know? And this one here was basically like a deciding factor for her, you know, like, when it came to like the love triangle of like her, you know, whether she wants to choose like Adam, who's, you know, either choose Adam or choose Samuel. But she ended up coming to like have this realization that, you know, she couldn't choose the one and she decided to choose the other, you know. So I don't want to give away like which one she chose, but you know, at the end, you're like, you know who she chose. But man, this was just, I was like, holy crap, that tipped it over for me. And like I said, I put it like right here, like there's a spot I marked where I was like, that was the scene right there. This one was like, holy crap. That's why I'm like, this was a 6-star to me. This one so far is like my favorite out of the whole series is this one here, because it had a lot of like emotional stuff to it. And it's like, I love Mercy Thompson. She's a badass, you know, she's such a badass, but it just shows like, even if you are a badass, you still have vulnerabilities. You still have weaknesses, you know, she's still like a flawed character, you know? And that's what I like about like a strong female heroine. A strong female heroine doesn't have to be perfect, you know? Like, I don't want a strong female heroine to be perfect. I want her to have flaws. I want her to have weaknesses, you know? And I just, in her resilience of like, after dealing with what she dealt with, and her, you know, saying to herself, she's not a victim, you know? I was like, yes, she's not a victim. She survived that. So yeah, this one here was like, holy crap. That one there kind of tipped it over for me. And I was like, I like that one a lot. This one here was really good. And like I said, I was just like, I couldn't believe what was happening to her when it happened. And I was just like, and like I said, that dialogue with the character in Adam, that just was like 6 stars. That was just a 6-star for me. So yeah, I'm definitely going to continue on with the series, but you know, I want to give myself breaks so that way I don't burn myself out. And this is why I'm like, I don't really, you know, do like how many books in a row, because like I said, I will burn myself out with the series and I won't want to read anymore for a while. So this is why I'm like, I'll take a break after this one. Like, okay, this one's really good the way it ended. And I'm like, okay, I'll delve into book number 4 next month and, you know, kind of like do another vlog when it comes to 4, 5, and 6 and kind of go from there and see what happens, you know, with these characters. But yeah, this series so far is really good, and yeah, it's a lot of action, a lot of different things, and like I said, she's the main protagonist where she's doing a lot of investigative work and you know, different things like that, because stuff's happening around like the town and everything. And so she wants to obviously protect the people that she cares about. She wants to protect Jesse. She wants to protect Adam. She wants to protect Samuel because Samuel's her friend, you know. she wants to protect all these different people, and there's all these other cast of characters. Like there's character Warren, there's, you know, like I said, Warren is gay, and his boyfriend is Kyle. Kyle's really cool too. I love Kyle. Like even like and there's the opening of this book where her, Warren, and Kyle are hanging out, and Kyle's kind of like cuddling up to her, and I was like, that's so sweet, because you see like, you know, that they have like this really good friendship. And so I really like that she has these friends, you know, that like care about her and want to protect her, you know. So yeah, I think it, you know, it was really good, you know. It was really good story, and all of the different things that she was investigating and everything like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one a lot. Love this one, and that's why I was like, no, this is like a 6-star to me, because it was that good. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the next books that, like I said, I'll definitely delve into those ones in February, and continue on with that. I'm just gonna do like every month, you know, until I get to the point where, you know, I get up to like the most recent book that came out like last year. I don't know. I'm assuming they're gonna do like a mass market paperback, if not a paperback. I don't know. I'm assuming they're gonna continue on doing those with this series. I'm assuming, you know, because they'll do like a hardcover first, and that'll be a hardcover for like a year, and then afterwards they go and make it into like, they go and they redo it again, and they make them into like mass markets. I actually prefer the mass markets because they are easier to store. I don't like the fact that, you know, they get all fucked up and shit, but I do like the fact that they are easy to store. So they are like the easiest books to store. So yeah, I'm gonna continue on doing Mercy Thompson for like every month, or basically until I, like, you know, I burn out. If I burn out and I'm like, I can't finish a series right now, then obviously I'll take a break and go to something else. But I'm gonna continue on with Mercy Thompson because it is a really good, an interesting series. And like I said, this would make a fucking great TV show. This would make a great TV show, but they have to stick to the books. This is a thing I don't like, when they go and they take like a book series and they turn it into, they adapt it into like a TV series, and then they take out a whole bunch of shit that I'm like, that was needed in the freaking series, and then they turn it into a fucking shit ass TV show. So no, it's like, if you did do this into a TV show, it's like, please keep this author where she's the one that's making these decisions, where she's like, no, you got to keep that stuff into the book, or no, that you could take certain things out. But it has like a lot of politics in it too, you know. Like she was saying like Patricia Briggs, I'm assuming she's probably more left leaning, but like I said, for me, it's like, if it's not like thrown in and to where it's like it irritates me, you know, then it's like hard for me to continue on. But I'm assuming she's probably more left leaning. A lot of writers are. But this one here was like basically saying like there was the conservatives who were kind of like against it, which I could kind of like go along with that, you know, because, you know, conservatives are conservatives. They're more traditional when it comes to marriages, different things like that, not accepting like LGBTQ and all that stuff, you know, which, you know, some I would say probably have come around since, like, you know, years ago. You know, I'm sure some of them have probably come around, but there's going to be some who obviously are still going to think of it as against God and all that stuff, because, you know, they tend to be more religious too. So I would say that's, you know, like probably more factual. Yeah, you know, go from there. So I would assume like if there was such a thing as like vampires and werewolves and things like that, yeah, conservatives probably wouldn't be too accepting of that, you know. But like I said, there is some political stuff in here, but you also have other things too. Besides like the humans and their politics, you also have werewolf politics too. You know, werewolf politics, vampire politics, witches, all these other things, all these other mystical beings and stuff like that that are involved in their own thing, you know? And so you have them kind of like fighting amongst themselves, even though they try to keep themselves separate, but, you know, there's obviously things going on that ends up where the werewolves have to get involved or the vampires have to get involved and things like that. This one here was like definitely had to do with more of like the fae and their type of magic and all this different stuff, you know, and they're, you know, I'd say hateful toward humans, which don't blame them, you know. I mean, honestly, don't blame them with how they were treated, you know, especially when they came forward and exposed themselves, you know. So it's a lot of that goes along with it too. But like I said, I tend to be more of like middle ground when it comes to like politics and things like that. So I can understand like both sides, you know, with like going against each other and like obstructing and everything like that, you know. I can kind of like understand where all this is going. It still makes it interesting. I'll just say that, you know. I will say, like, modern American politics, like, when it comes here, oh my God, it's like sitting down and just pulling out your popcorn and watching the show, because there's some fucking shit in politics that I'm just like, are you serious? Yeah. I could never be in politics. Never be in politics. I'm like, I try to be a nice person, you know? And a lot of politics, there's a lot of people who are politicians that are all like full of shit, you know? Full of shit. So I can't be that dishonest, you know? Can't be that dishonest of a person. But yeah, anyways, enough about that. But it's an interesting series. It is a very interesting series. And like I said, it's not something where it's like, the politics, I wouldn't say that they're not shoved down your throat to where you're like, ugh, you know, you have to deal with it. It's not shoved down your throat. There's a little bit kind of like sprinkled in, you know, to kind of make it more, you know, more urban. So like I said, this is definitely more of like urban fantasy, you know, urban fantasy, paranormal, you know, things like that. So like I said, it's so similar to like the Sookie Stackhouse series, you know, when it comes to that and stuff. Definitely very similar to Sookie Stackhouse series. And then also I would say it's very similar to like Janine Frost's the Night Hunter series too. Like all of them are very similar. So I'd say if you like the Night Hunter series, if you like when it comes to like, if you like the Sookie Stackhouse series, I think you definitely would really dig the Mercy Thompson series, because this one here is like really good. But like I said, it's the politics that are in it are not like banged, you know, and onto your head and stuff like that, to the point of like, oh God, I can't finish, you know. I don't know if it'll change and get kind of like more, you know, in it. I don't know, but we'll see. But so far, I've been really enjoying this one here. And like I said, this was like the most like triggered, I'd say the most triggered you'd be, you know, if you're really sensitive to like sexual assault and things like that, you know, you'd probably be triggered with this one. But really good book, and I'm going to continue on with it and go from there. So yeah, next month you'll see me continue on with this series and see, you know, how it you know, moves through all of the different stuff. And like I said, I can't give out like so much of the story, because then I'm spoiling a lot. I don't want to do that. Like, I felt like I spoiled too much when it came to the Sookie Stackhouse series. So I'm trying to like, you know, reel it in more to where I'm not giving off too much, you know? So yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I'll see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.